What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Yanks of the Cop during the international break here. We got a very special episode coming to you. Today, we're going to break down the 8 teams left in the Champions League quarterfinal. We're going to provide a little tactical analysis, a little bit of strengths and weaknesses for each club, and ultimately decide who we think is going to move on to the semifinal. As always, we're your hosts, Scans and Steve, and today we have on 2 recurring guests. Can say recurring guests now because they keep coming on. We really appreciate them. We have Alex Mansfield and our man Peter Phillips. Lads, thanks for joining us. How are you guys doing this evening?
All good, thanks. Cheers to the invite once again.
Yeah, wonderful here as well. Happy to be talking about this next round with us included.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun, and I'm surprised you guys keep wanting to come back. I guess you guys like to be tortured, so we appreciate it. Scans, how you doing, man?
Doing well. Actually, I was just telling Alex, I just got back from a run, so I'm a little sweaty, a little parched, but I'm ready to go. Nice and warm, so let's go.
Hell yeah.
Be on with the gossip.
Yeah, Peter seems to think I look like Jota, so I'll take that compliment all day. So I'm going to keep running with that.
Yeah, that'd definitely be a big compliment for you, that's for sure. And everyone who's going to be jumping in the chat, we appreciate you guys. Let us know your thoughts on all the teams that we'll be talking about, but I think the only logical place to start will be to look at Liverpool's first opponent. That's going to be Real Madrid, and our good friend Wahoma here in the chat. Hey, buddy, we'll be seeing you shortly. But yeah, let's start with Real Madrid because I think obviously this is a matchup that a lot of us have been licking our chops for. Obviously, we'd be a lot more confident if we had our full squad. But, personally, I still think we have a really good shot in this match. And I think just the fact that a lot of our team's going to be mentally prepared and mentally want to make a statement against these guys is going to, really serve a benefit here. But, Andrew, let's start with you. Overall, when you look at Real Madrid, what are your initial thoughts about this team?
Well, I said it last episode that Real Madrid are kind of in the similar predicament that we are. They're not top of the table. We're not top of the table. 2 of the biggest clubs in Europe seem to be having an off year, but you just can't sit on this team. When we drew Real Madrid, I think a lot of Liverpool fans were excited about the potential for a revenge game. Obviously for Mo Salah going off injured, it's going to be big for him and everybody will be up for it, but it's still not going to be an easy game. And, we were kind of chatting before, but they still have top quality all throughout the squad, from the goalkeeper all the way up to Benzema up top. I mean, Benzema's a top 5 striker in the last 10 years, in my opinion. He's absolutely phenomenal. He's very underrated, in my opinion, as well. So especially for our 2 center backs that we've seemed to be going with now in Phillips and Kabak, I think that's going to be a massive test for them. I mean, yeah, they've come up against some pretty good strikers already, but Benzema's a different animal. He's a bigger striker. He can beat you in the air. He can beat you with his feet. He can beat you with his pace. And if you're just kind of sitting back on your heels, he's going to get by you and put the ball in the back of the net. So, and then you can't forget about Kroos and Modric in the midfield, Ramos in the back, and they have Thibaut Courtois there as their keeper. So we just can't sit on these guys. We just have to attack them and hope for the best. And I think that's definitely what we're going to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, when I looked at it, the midfield was the thing that stood out to me. It was if we win that midfield battle between Kroos, Modric, and Valverde, if he's in there, if Fabinho can play like he can, and if we can intercept with either Wijnaldum or Keita or Thiago, whoever is going to be up there, if we can cut out those passing lanes, I don't really think when I think of Real Madrid, and I've seen them play this year, they don't really play a lot of long balls. It's a lot of short passing, possessing, not super aggressive. So I think if we can just cut out those passing lanes, that would be a really good thing for us. But Alex, going over to you, what are your initial thoughts when you kind of think about this matchup and also just the Real Madrid team as a whole?
I mean, you guys hit it on the head, and you can never really talk about one of the most prestigious teams of the past how many years as a potential banana skin, right? Because I mean, they're Real Madrid. But you don't know what you can get from them the same way we really don't know what we get from us either. I think the blessing or the curse right now is that from this current Liverpool squad, we haven't seen this particular group hit its stride in total yet. We've had some really great performances. The last arguably dominant performance was probably Palace, but that wasn't this group. There was no Salah there. That was, I think, Fabinho and Matip at the back. There was no Thiago. So in a sense that we now have a midfield back, since we have an established center back pairing, we still don't quite know what this group is capable of at its absolute best. And so that can work hugely to our benefit. If we if they perform to the levels I think we all know they're capable of, they could run away with this tie and bury it in 15 minutes, the way they've done in the past in Europe. But again, it's Real Madrid. It's always going to be tough. I think what you guys have said about the matchup of Benzema against that back two is obviously huge, and I think you guys are spot on in saying that the best thing we can do is not rely on Phillips and Kabak, but rather work on cutting off the supply. And I see mention of an aging midfield for Real Madrid, and it's true, but it's also still a midfield that if our pressing is not absolutely in lockstep, they can cut us wide open. So I think it's going to be a fascinating tactical battle. I think it could go any number of ways. It could either be a very, very tight two legs, or somebody could just blow it wide open. And I'm not confident enough yet to say it could be us or it could be them, but I'm just really looking forward to it.
Now, I think Fabinho is going to be key for us, because think about how Mason Mount carved us up last time we played Chelsea. I mean, Modric, Kroos have way more talent than he does. Not saying that he's a bad player, but I mean, you give those guys space and room to operate, it's going to spell trouble for us. But Peter, what are your initial thoughts on all this?
Yeah, well, looking at the Real Madrid team at the present time, it's not the same team, obviously, that what it was when we lost to them in the Champions League final. There's no more Cristiano Ronaldo. Gareth Bale's now at Tottenham, and they haven't really replaced them with world-class stars, in my opinion. They've still got very, very good players. Asensio's one who we have to keep an eye on if he plays. Very, very good young Spanish midfielder. But then, like you have just said previously, the midfield of Real Madrid isn't what it was, and legs seem to have caught up with them. Kroos and Modric are plus 30 now, and I think if we play the younger lads in that midfield, which we should do, the likes of Henderson if he's fit, Fabinho, Naby Keita, Gini Wijnaldum even, I think we'll have the legs on them. But it's all about stopping what Real Madrid can do, and then capitalising on the counter attack, if you like. We've got the speed. Obviously, there's history there between Mo Salah and Sergio Ramos. So I think all the lads are going to be building Mo up for this fixture, saying to him, look, see what happened in that final when you got substituted off through injury. And it's time for us now to get revenge, if you like. But revenge can't be the attitude. It's got to be one of, we want to go out there and make a statement, if you like, and get through to the semi-finals.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I mean, just building off of that, this is a great question in the chat. Who would you guys play in this match? Would you play Firmino or would you play Jota?
That's tight. That's tough, because obviously when you think about Firmino, right, like we know what his skill set is, tracking back, cutting out passing lanes, and hopefully connecting well with Mane and Salah. But I mean, I gotta say, I think I'd have to go. I think I'd actually have to go Jota, and the reason is because I think he's still a little bit more fresh than the other guys right now. And you saw in that game against Wolves, I thought he was the best of the front three. And just his work rate is just absolutely incredible. So for me, I think it'd have to be Jota. Also, it's because his finishing ability is significantly better. One thing that this Real Madrid team does is allow a lot of chances. You're gonna get chances to score against these guys. So I want to make sure that if we're going to get some chances, we need our best three goal scorers in the game. And I think that has to be Jota. So for me, I think it'd be Jota.
Yeah. Alex, what do you think?
I'm going to not necessarily go against you guys. I agree with everything you said. But again, against a team that is just technical, the big thing that's going to be there is opportunity for the press. And his work rate is second to none, but he still doesn't understand the scheme nearly as well as Firmino does. And I think from that perspective, as long as the tie hangs in the balance, you almost have to start Firmino, just because that if they're going to try to play out of the back, he's the one who is most in lockstep with the two guys around him. But he also enables that confidence in the guys behind him to know that he is going to, he is going to set it up so that if Real Madrid do play out of the back, they're going to be playing into the positions that we want them to. And Jota as an individual presser is incredible, but he still doesn't have quite that same understanding to me as far as the group dynamic. And against a team like Real Madrid, that's just so dangerous. The other piece of that is he is going to run whoever their center back pairing is, or even if they play three at the back, he is going to be relentless for 60 minutes with those guys. And if you got a game that's still 0-0 after 60 minutes and you have a choice of bringing Firmino off the bench or bringing Diogo Jota off the bench, I think Jota is the game breaker that you need. And I think you can really benefit from that dynamic. And, hopefully we wouldn't be chasing the tie at that point, but I have an inkling that that's the direction Klopp's going to go, assuming Firmino is fit.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with that aspect. I think that when the going gets tough, Klopp always goes with his most favorite lineup, his preferred lineup, his safest lineup. In the Champions League run of 17-18, or was it 18-19? Can't remember. But he would always go with Wijnaldum, Henderson, and Gini over anybody else. So I agree. I think we could see Firmino as well. But Peter, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the way Klopp will approach this game will be to use Firmino. Obviously, he's more of the link-up player, if you like, for Liverpool, dropping deep and bringing other players into play. And like Alex said in the previous part there, that if you're going to be bringing somebody on with 30 minutes to go, with the fresh legs and the speed of Jota, them tired Real Madrid legs are not going to like that at all, and I think that could completely play into our hands. Salah is, like I said, if he can play wide, and then if Jota comes on, he could move central and Jota could go wide. So we could switch it up a little bit, try and catch Real Madrid out. And I think, it's going to be a tactical game. But when you look at the two managers tactically, I think Zidane, personally, I don't think he's anywhere near Klopp. I don't think he's in Klopp's league. I don't think he's got that tactical nous that Jurgen's got. Or he was a world-class player. No one could touch him when he was playing. But as a manager, there's a lot more better managers out there for me. And I think he's clung to the Real Madrid job by his nails, really, at times, especially with some of the results he's had this season. And I just think that Klopp will have the edge over Zidane tactically and over these two legs.
Just got to hope he's not on the phone to his old mentor Ancelotti, because he certainly knows a thing or two about how to set up against us, especially in Europe. And that's, I agree. Zidane on his own is nowhere near the tactical savant that Klopp is, but he's got a pretty good Rolodex of folks that he could tap into if he needed. So fingers crossed he goes this one solo.
Yeah, it's funny. LFC Gamer had a little rant here in the chat. He said, "Why don't people get it? We won't see the best of Firmino ever again. He's finished." And for me, I just disagree with that. I think Firmino still has so much more to offer. Maybe not as a striker. I think he's going to see a lot of time as a 10 next year. Even obviously still in that false 9 a little bit, but in this game, like I said, I think that Klopp's going to go with his safest option. And in order for our press to be the most effective it can be, we need Bobby Firmino in there. And, he's that front line. He's the engine that moves Liverpool and starts the press. And he's the best in the business at it. So while Jota does offer so much on the attack, I just think we can't give up that press, especially with Modric and Kroos in that midfield. So, and Ramos can play well with his feet as well, and as can Varane. Yeah. I mean, everybody on Real Madrid can. So that's why I just wanted to reference that from what LFC Gamer was saying. But I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Would you agree overall?
Yeah, no, I would agree. I mean, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, for me, when I just think about this matchup with Madrid and Liverpool, I just think it's going to be, there's so many different things that are going to play a massive element to this game, because like the few games I have watched Real Madrid, I feel like they've run off sides like 5-6 times every single game. So it's going to be interesting to see, like, do we keep going with the high line against these guys, especially with Benzema playing so well. I think he's, ratings wise, he's been the best player for them on the Madrid team this year. But when you also think about some of the things that Real Madrid's good at, is they're really good at creating turnovers as well. They can get, they like to live in the opponent's half and try to get, some steals in that area. So it's going to be really important that we don't make mistakes in the back. Guys like Phillips, guys like Kabak, even Trent at times, like we've seen some times where we've been a little bit sloppy trying to create from the back, getting forwards. And I think if we can limit our mistakes, it's going to be really hard for Real Madrid to create chances and get the chances that they need to score goals. So that's kind of another thing that I'm looking at is, can we minimize our mistakes and in turn, create them, make them create mistakes and, steal the ball in their territory, have us get those opportunities over them. I think that's going to be a massive part of this game.
Yeah, I guess my next question would be, where do you guys think this game is going to be won or lost for Liverpool? I mean, is it going to be the goalkeeper, the back line, the midfield, the front three? I mean, where is it going to be, Peter or Alex?
I think it's a mixture of all of them characters, really. I think we have to be defensively solid. We've got to put in a performance similar to what we did against RB Leipzig, home and away, with Thiago sort of playing a free role, if you like, without him having to do much defending, with Fabinho and Gini Wijnaldum doing most of the legwork for him, enabling him to go forward and create them chances for the forward players. But I think it's all over. 1 to 11, they've all got to be on the game. You can't have a less than a 7 out of 10 performance from any of the players. You've got to have, everybody's got to be on the game, and they've shown that against Leipzig over both legs in the 2 games that we played against them. Klopp had them fired up. For some reason, I think he has took his eye slightly off the Premier League now, with us being so far behind the places. He might not say it, but he has seemed to put a lot of the eggs into the Champions League baskets. Maybe this is another reason why Fabinho's not been seen recently. He might be saving him for that. Trent's not going away with England now, so he's going to be fresh. So I think that overall, every player on that pitch has got to put a shift in over both legs, and whoever does that, whoever wins the press and whoever wins the tactical battle is going to come out on top. And fingers crossed, that's going to be the
boys in red. But Brian Connolly here in the chat said the central defense is where the match will be won or lost. Alex, what do you think overall?
I think it's really difficult to point to one spot in particular, unless it comes as a result of an error. And I know that's a sensitive subject in terms of us in recent history. But Peter hit it on the head. As talented as we are, this isn't a game that we can afford to try to win by being reliant on individual performances. And I know LFC Gamer has his opinions about Firmino, and I agree with what he said about Jota being one of the strongest performers this year. But bottom line is, we are not going to win this tie if we're relying on somebody to save us. We're going to win this tie if 1 through 11, the guys are doing the job they need to. And it has nothing to do with my doubt about Jota's quality. It strictly has to do with familiarity. And he's a sublime footballer. I mean, he has everything we could want. And I think in 1 or 2 years' time, I would have no problem with him. But the reality is, this is the first time he's been thrust into this situation. Mm-hmm. And when the margins are this razor thin, and when you do have that liability at the back, the press in this case, if we want to do it, and a little bit of an aside, let's rewind to when these guys got knocked out by City last year. I mean, they were playing, keepy uppies on their own touchline. They're going to play out of the back. They're going to give us the opportunity. But if you are not impeccable with your systemic pressing, they can cut you apart. And that's where, Jota, as good as he is, he doesn't represent as dependable a piece of that puzzle as Firmino does. And so, yeah, I mean, that's where it's won or lost for me with the system as a whole. If they do their job right, they can simplify the job that Phillips and Kabak have to do. They can, I mean, this is an incredible unit, and I have no idea that Klopp is instilling that in these guys. But I don't think we can look to any one position, any one part of the pitch, and say that has to be that's going to be where it's won and lost, because it's neck and neck on paper.
All right, official predictions for the matchup. What do you guys think?
For the whole tie or just the first match?
Whole tie.
I'm going to go 4-2 Liverpool. Liverpool go through.
Yeah, I think the game at over in Spain in the Bernabeu Stadium won't be as as high scoring as the one at Anfield. So I think we'll probably come away with either a 1-1 draw or maybe even a 0-0, and then coming back to Anfield with obviously with the home advantage and the feelings that they've got around the stadium and there that the Reds are going to put on a performance. And as long as we're going into that game with plenty to play for, I can see Liverpool really putting a show on when they come back to Anfield and like I say, getting some sort of revenge for that Champions League final defeat when obviously we lost Salah early on and lots of from Karius, and I'm sure the boys are going to have that in the back of the mind and thinking, right, let's get rid of that ghost and let's go out there and show these Real Madrid team that we're not the team that was there in 2018, 19, whenever it was, and put on a show, and hopefully we'll go through. But yeah, over the 2 legs, I think Liverpool will be the stronger team, especially in the second leg.
Yeah, before we move to Alex, is the game going to be played at the Bernabeu? I thought isn't there under construction, or there's some issue with the stadium or Spain in general? Have you guys heard anything about that?
They've been using one of their academy facilities, I think, for the Champions League, as far as I've seen. Yeah, okay. I personally don't know where it's going to be. I don't imagine it will be at the Bernabeu, but it will be their quote unquote home ground, I imagine.
Okay.
Yeah, Bernabeu's under renovations or something like that. But yeah, it seems like it's going to be still somewhere in Spain, somewhere close to them. But I agree with Ian Francis. Actually, spot on. Spot on. 3-1 Liverpool on the aggregate. I think it's gonna be 1-1 first leg, something like 2-0 in the second leg. Make Real Madrid come at us in the second leg, and I think we'll be able to get the job done.
Yeah, this is a tricky one, and I don't want to sit on the fence or hedge my bets, but I think the first goal in the first leg determines everything. I think the thing we gotta remember is the midfield's aging, but the pace that Real Madrid can field up front, they want to, the likes of Rodrigo, Vinicius, Vasquez. If we concede early, and let's not forget, we did concede 2 glaring chances in both legs against Leipzig. We were lucky that neither one, that we weren't punished for either. But if we have to chase the game and chase that away goal, Real Madrid become infinitely more dangerous to me. I can't see them just sitting back at 0-0. And especially if we go up 1, they definitely won't sit back, and that'll, that plays into our favor greatly. But if they get that first goal, it dramatically shifts that first tie for me, and I worry that we could be coming to Anfield with, a two goal deficit or worse. So yeah, I'm gonna be bold. I'm gonna say if we get the first goal, we win 5-2 on aggregate. I'm saying if we don't, Real Madrid goes through 3-2.
Ooh. Okay.
I know.
I like 5-2. I don't like 3-2.
No, I don't either. And like I said, I'm not trying to hedge my bets, but we've seen how quickly Liverpool heads go down when that first goal goes in against us lately. And this is a different beast. I mean, this is a competition that has our fingerprints all over it recently. But this is also a club that's in a pretty unprecedented rut right now. And so, one of those two things would have to give in that situation. And yeah, it's going to be interesting. We'll say that.
That's a good point. That's a really good point, because about us hanging our heads, because it does seem like, especially since like December when this tough spell has happened, anytime the going gets tough, it just seems like all the heads go straight down and the team kind of starts to quit a little bit. I've definitely picked up on that as well. And that's a really good point, I do think. And Brian Conley agrees with you here. First goals are going to be critical, and 100%. I mean, especially if Real Madrid gets the first goal, I wouldn't be surprised if they, just try to possess the shit out of the ball and just kind of leave it at that. So it's going to be interesting.
Oh yeah, Oscar in the chat did confirm that there is renovations going on at the Bernabeu, and the game is likely going to be played at the Alfredo Di Stefano Stadium. And then Wahomey here in the chat, who should be joining us in the next 20 minutes, said that he thinks it's going to be 2-1 in Spain for Liverpool and then 3-1 at home in Anfield. So he's going with 5-2 as well.
Yeah,
so hopefully one of us is right and it goes in Liverpool's favor.
I sure hope so. But to kind of transition into the next matchup, might as well go to look at who we could potentially play if we move on to the semifinal. That's going to be Chelsea versus Porto. Really interesting matchup here. I think, I think if you're a Madrid fan or a Liverpool fan, this would be kind of like your ideal scenario for a semifinal matchup. But let's start with the guys that we know a little bit more. Start with Chelsea. It's really interesting because leading up to his hire, and I did not really think too highly of Tuchel. I think he's good. I don't think he's great. Kind of like Brendan Rodgers-esque, in my opinion, that level coach. But you can't deny he's been doing a great job with the Chelsea squad. He's getting the most out of Mason Mount. The guys seem to really be playing for him. Hudson-Odoi is even, he's been up and down. He's showing signs of, being a decent player for them. What do you guys think of Chelsea and their potential to go through? I mean, I think for them, it's the ideal matchup playing against Porto.
Yeah, it's tough. I think I agree with you entirely. And I think the thing that Tuchel's brought that was lacking under Lampard is a clear identity. And that's no clear knock against Frank. I mean, he's still young as a manager, but you didn't really, I couldn't tell you what quote Lampard ball really looks like, what it is. So Tuchel's instilled that identity for sure. I think it's interesting because I think there's going to be a distinct lack of confidence with both Chelsea and with Porto, because I don't think either one is really willing to look beyond just the game at hand. And Porto took that and executed it brilliantly against Juve. I think as it stands right now, Chelsea's probably a better, more cohesive unit than Pirlo's Juve are. But Conceição's team has absolutely nothing to lose. They've got absolutely nothing to lose. And, Tuchel, as impressive as the form has been since he took over, he's not going to be discounting the opposition at all. He's not going to be, I don't think he would even favor Chelsea to go through on this. I think he's just going to look to go through the motions and try to maintain this, it's not exhilarating football they've had, but it's incredibly, incredibly robust and pragmatic. And that kind of means that this is a tie that could well be decided on a moment of individual brilliance from either side.
Yeah, I think for me, it was going to be really interesting. Like the thing that stands out on paper for me is Chelsea likes to, under Tuchel, they like to play three in the back. And Porto is that team that they still play the classic 4-4-2. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how the three of Chelsea handle the two strikers for Porto. Because for Porto, their striker there, what's his name? Is it it's not Olivier? Who am I thinking of?
Are you thinking of Marega, the big guy?
Yeah, so he's pretty. Yeah. And then they have Otavio as well up top. He's kind of their attacking guy. He's been playing well. And then their defensive midfielder Olivier, he's been playing well. So it's gonna be interesting to see how they line up, like how that goes. Like because with the 4-4-2 and Chelsea, they like to play kind of like the 3-4-2-1 type of a thing. I kind of feel like this is going to be goals galore. I feel like there's going to be a lot of goals scored in this matchup.
Yeah, I think that I think Chelsea's fortunate in that they're going to have the best player on the pitch, in my opinion, will be Mason Mount. I think that he has just been absolutely resilient for Chelsea. He's been their player of the year for me, and he's one of the reasons why that they're currently in the fourth spot in the English Premier League table. I've been very impressed with what Tuchel's done with Chelsea. I mean, I agree with Alex that they kind of lost their identity under Lampard in his second year, especially when they made all these big signings. I don't think Lampard knew how to deal with a lot of these egos, how to deal with a lot of these players making the transition from the Bundesliga or from Paris Saint-Germain or whoever it was. So I think he struggled on that accord. And Tuchel's been a manager who has dealt with bigger players, obviously coming from PSG and Borussia Dortmund. So I think he's done absolutely fantastic with Chelsea, and I would actually probably favor them going into this match. But I mean, to be honest, I don't know too much about Porto, but I mean, the display that they put on against Juventus, who I think was one of the top 5 favorites for the Champions League this year, was definitely impressive. And they have a leader in the back and Pepe from Real Madrid, so that he knows he's going to keep those guys organized in the back. But I'm curious, if you're Tuchel, do you keep up with Timo Werner up top in this game, or do you play Olivier Giroud, who I think has been absolutely fantastic in the Champions League for them this year? So it'll be interesting to see what Chelsea does. I think that N'Golo Kante has been resilient as well under Tuchel. He's been finding his form. He's been all over the pitch. So, they're in a good transitional period. And if I'm thinking about the domestic league as well, I'm definitely worried about Chelsea's recent form because if we slip up at all, I think it's definitely out of the question of us making the top four. So,
yeah, I think what's happened there with Thomas Tuchel going into Chelsea, he's gone into that dressing room and for me, he's backed himself. He's gone in there. He's set out a blueprint for how they're going to play. He's put it out there in front of the players. And he's backed his philosophy 100%, and he's asked the players to buy in to what he's trying to do, and everyone can see that it's working at the moment. They're not playing, I'd say, like the fantastic lightning speed football that Liverpool played in especially during the title winning season, but they're playing more methodically, if you like. They're playing a decent press, as you've seen at Anfield. They're getting men around the ball, and they've got lots of energy in there with the likes of Mount and Kante. Hudson-Odoi is working as well, and then you've got the forward players, the likes of Abraham and Giroud, who are, especially Giroud, who's an experienced striker. But from what I can see, and Tuchel's gone in there with his plans, with his team, and he's shown them to them lads, and they've gone with them, and it's worked out so far. And yeah, very dangerous team, but I don't claim to know very much about Porto. I've seen a little bit of the game against Juventus when it went into the extra time, and they looked like a decent outfit. And I think it'll be a very good game over the two legs if Porto can try and get an away goal at Chelsea, and then it would be all to play for in the second leg, and be very difficult for Chelsea over in Porto. So yeah, another very good fixture. And if you was going to pick one out of the hat who we would face in the semi-final if we do go through against Real Madrid, then yeah, it's definitely going to be either of them two sides.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone in the chat, we appreciate you guys. Keep these comments coming. Hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't yet, or you can click this logo right there. Again, that also works for you. The one thing I saw with Chelsea too that I think is going to be really interesting is, can Chelsea? I said the same thing about the Liverpool Real Madrid game, but Chelsea's been known to make a mistake, especially in the back. And Porto's that type of team there. If you do make a mistake and give them an opportunity, they're going to score. They do score a lot of goals. They create a lot of chances. So as long as Chelsea can limit that, especially having the three guys in the back, I think that would that would be an advantage for Chelsea. But yeah, that's the only other thing with Chelsea that I get from a Chelsea fan perspective is they are not good against the counterattack, and then they also they do create they do make a lot of mistakes. So it's gonna be interesting to keep an eye on that. Who do you think is going to go through?
I'm going to venture a wild guess, and I'm going to say Porto goes through 2-1 on aggregate.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting game, but I'm going to be putting a bet on money-wise. I'd say I'd back Chelsea over the two legs for the experience that Tuchel's got and the way he's got them playing, and he'll have them set up ready for that fixture. And I'd go with Chelsea over the two legs and hopefully set up a semi-final, should I say, to the 2005 when we went through to Istanbul. So yeah, I'd take Chelsea. I'd take Liverpool v Real Madrid, and then Chelsea to beat Porto.
Yeah, I think that it was a pretty impressive performance by Chelsea and Tuchel against Atletico Madrid. Let's not forget, Atletico Madrid is top of La Liga right now. So I mean, that was pretty impressive. They knocked us out last year. So I think Chelsea goes through. And like I said, they have Mason Mount, who's I think the best player in this tie. They have N'Golo Kante, and they have a pretty solid defense, in my opinion. I think Steven's right on that they did make mistakes, but under Tuchel, they've seemed to have cleaned that up a little bit. So I'm very interested to see how this goes. I think it's going to be an exciting tie, but I think that Chelsea squeezes through, and hopefully it'll be a Reds against Blues semifinal.
Yeah, so this is a tough one for me because Porto I kind of agree with Alex. I mean, I feel like Porto's almost playing with house money at this point. No one really thought they'd be in the round of 8. There's literally no pressure on them at all in this matchup, in my opinion. Also, you got a guy like Pepe in the back. He's a solid leader, but he could lose his head pretty quickly.
He's the only one we all know.
Right? Well, they got the Mexican guy on their team too. The outside mid Corona, he's pretty solid. He's not bad.
They've got a lot of guys who aren't household names, but very well could be coming up. Yeah. I mean, Sergio Oliveira, that he was the kind of the star that tie against Juve. He's just reborn in that midfield. Has looked incredible. Luis Diaz, the winger, I don't know if you guys remember in the group stages, walked like 6 or 7 Man City players and scored a highlight reel goal, and he's been starting from the bench for them lately. And so I think that's almost, obviously I'd say Chelsea scouting system's maybe a little more informed than we are, but there isn't a book on a lot of these guys, and that's what largely makes them so dangerous. Is you don't really know who you're going to come up against. You don't know a lot of these commodities, and so best laid plans don't always come to fruition there.
It's very true. And they have Liverpool legend Marco Grujic on the team too, coming off the bench.
Yeah, of course.
Can't forget
the X factor.
Yeah.
Would he be able to play? Would he be able to play if Porto went through and the Liverpool went through?
I don't think the loan rules apply to Champions League. I think it's
only domestic leagues, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be interesting to see if that happened, if they would even let him play. Like if Porto would have him play, it's like, host club, like do we let him go in? So that would be a nice little storyline. But yeah, for me, I think it's going to be 4-4 and Porto goes through on away goals. I think it's going to be that close of a tie. It's going to go back and forth. And I like I said, I think there's going to be a lot of goals scored. I just think with both teams, with Porto's form, with Chelsea's recent form, it's just both teams are going to be going at it left and right. And I'm really excited for this matchup. I think it's going to be a good one. So I think Porto gets through on away goals. All right. Now, transitioning to next, let's go to – I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about City because they're just annoying. So let's talk about City and Borussia Dortmund, that matchup next. Peter, why don't you kick us off high level? When you think about the Dortmund match versus Man City, what are you keeping an eye on for? What are you watching for? Where are going to be the keys?
Obviously, the threat of Erling Haaland up front for Borussia Dortmund. I think that's there for everybody to see. Sancho plays as well. Them two are key players for Borussia Dortmund. And then you've got the young lad, Jude Bellingham, in the midfield, just 17 years old. Hit the ground running at Dortmund. He's in the England squad now. Absolutely flying. Very, very highly rated young player. I was surprised that he actually went to Dortmund because of his growing stature, if you like, when he left Birmingham. I know Manchester United, Liverpool, all the top Premier League sides were linked with him. So when Dortmund came in, similar to what they did when they bought Haaland, they've snatched him from under the noses of other teams. They've gone in there solid and brought these two players into their club, and all credit to them for doing that. So they're going to be like the three players, and you've also got Reina as well, haven't you? Gio Reyna from the USA lad, who's playing really, really well for Dortmund as well. But I think the Manchester City side are very now. They're very experienced in Europe, aren't they? Although they haven't got to a final, they haven't actually won a European Cup. They're gathering experience season after season, and obviously they're going for the quadruple. Pep Guardiola's got to be really, really invested in this game, and I just think that City playing the way they are and the way that Pep's got them set up, I just think defensively as well, they've become a lot more stronger since the introduction of Diaz. They've looked really strong in defence. The only sort of question mark over Manchester City for me is the full-back positions. Not so much Kyle Walker, but the left-back position when Mendy or Zinchenko's there. I think that's where you can get a lot of joy against Manchester City. So I think if Sancho was to play on that right-hand side, he could cause Manchester City a lot of problems down there. But yeah, it's going to be another fantastic tie to watch, and it's definitely a potential banana skin for Manchester City. I think Dortmund a side not to be taken lightly, and you don't get to a quarter final of a Champions League competition if you're not a good side. And obviously the two of them are really good and both in form. If Haaland can show his strength and his power, I'm sure he can pick up a couple of goals against Manchester City, similar to what City could do at the other end. I just think City haven't got that out-and-out striker at the moment. I know Jesus is playing there. He's picked up the odd goal, but Aguero's not been featured in lately. He's been on the bench a lot, so they've been sort of rotating between Mahrez, Raheem Sterling, Bernardo Silva. Lots of different players goes to play in them forward positions. So, yeah, a very interesting game, and I can see Dortmund nicking this game over two legs. I think if they can get a decent result I'm not too sure whether it's City home first or Dortmund, but whoever's playing the away leg first, if they can come away from that first leg with a decent result going into the second game again, then it's all to play for. And I just have this sneaky feeling that Dortmund might do them over two legs.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think homie here said in the chat that Haaland's actually suspended for the first game, and Sancho is likely going to be 50-50. So if that's the case, then I actually think Man City might do might do Dortmund pretty dirty. I think it's going to be a tough first leg for Dortmund, especially with that back line. That's where they're most susceptible. So I think that this tie actually could be over in the first leg. I think it could be 4-0 to City or something like that, especially with Haaland out. So to be honest, they're my biggest fear in this tournament. I think that Man City has been absolutely fantastic this year. I think İlkay Gündoğan has been the Premier League's best player this season, maybe next to Harry Kane. I guess you had to put Harry Kane in there as well. But Man City is the optimal squad at the moment. If they can beat Bayern, they might go on and win the whole thing if we don't make it to the finals. So they're my biggest fear right now, and I'm glad we're not playing them right now. I feel for Dortmund because I think they're gonna suffer against Man City.
Well, just to clarify, I just looked this up. There's only 2 players suspended for the first game of the next round, and neither one of them are Haaland. It's Taremi from Porto and Paredes from PSG. Otherwise, so Haaland's available for the first leg. I'm not sure why this keeps coming up, but he is available. And yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. Right now, Man City is an absolute wagon. Like if they don't win the Champions League this year, then they're never going to win it. But when you think about Dortmund, like as awesome as they are on offense, they are equally as shitty on defense. Like their defense is absolutely putrid. They've blown a lot of leads this year. They allow so many chances. And one thing that City is going to relish is that if you have a capable attacking mid, they can go out and get a lot of goals against this team. So guy like KDB, Gundogan, even Foden, they could have an absolute field day against this back line. So that's the story for me is can somehow Dortmund play above their means and actually play some decent defense? Because if they don't, it's going to be a long time. It's going to be a long day for them because as good as Haaland is, you can't lie. I mean, like Peter said, Bellingham has shown to be a really good player. Sancho has probably been their second best player. They still have Marco Reus, Gio Reyna. They have that kid Reinier from Brazil, the 19-year-old who's been playing pretty well as well. Like their offense it's like that classic meme that you see where it's like the Corvette in the front and then the piece of shit car in the back. That's exactly what they are. So it's gonna be really interesting to see how that unfolds and if they can keep Haaland quiet. But I just don't see how Dortmund can stop City from scoring 3, 4, maybe 5 goals.
Yeah, well, and I think you're right. And I think this is going to be, given how potent that Dortmund attack can be, I think we might see a slight change in MO from City. I think they actually might not look to dominate possession the way they have. And I think they rather might sit off a little bit more, knowing that if they get Dortmund in transition, they will absolutely crush them. And, the thing we've seen, if you look at their score lines from the group stage, even this first, the first knockout round against Gladbach, they weren't overwhelming. It wasn't, like Burnley where they're stat padding, ringing up 4 or 5 goals. It's 1-0, 2-0, and then they control the game. But given you have somebody like a Haaland on the other side, you might have a Sancho. Given what Dortmund could potentially do if they just threw everything at them, I don't think City are going to be content to sit on a 2-goal first leg lead. I think they will try to pile up that score, and I think if they're in anything that resembles their recent form, they won't struggle to do that in the slightest. You were talking about left back, Peter. I think I agree. If Zinchenko or Mendy plays on that left side, they could be got at. But I think if João Cancelo plays over there like he has been, the right back position has been maybe one of the weakest for Dortmund. Thomas Meunier was not a good signing. The Spanish kid Morey is good, but he's a relative novice. And, whoever they play on that left side with them, be it a Sterling, if they mix things up and go Foden on the left, they will absolutely run riot down that side. I think it's going to take a miracle for Dortmund. As much as I would love any one of those, Cinderella storylines, Klopp's old side knocking him off, Emre Can, doing his old team a solid. You've got the Sancho storyline. You've got all kinds of things that would be wonderful, but I can't see it happening.
Hey, Peter, before we move on, are you okay on time? I think Wahomie said that you might have to jump off early.
Yeah, a couple of minutes I'll have to shoot off. I've got an early start tomorrow, so.
Okay. Yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
But yeah, just kind of building off what you guys just said, I can agree with most of everything that was said. But one thing that's been City's kind of kryptonite has been Pep Guardiola himself, in my opinion. It seems like every season he's been at City in the Champions League that he tries to get a little too tactical, tries to get cute, tries to make a little change in the formation or change in personnel. So if he does something like this again, maybe kind of like what Alex was hinting at with, trying to just let Dortmund have the ball, that could bite him in the ass, in my opinion. Like when he gets too tactical, that's when he tends to lose matches. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. I mean, if Haaland is available, then that definitely changes things, and we'll see how good Ruben Diaz actually is if he can contain Erling Haaland. But still, it's Champions League. It's going to be a great tie.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just getting into some things in the chat here. Wahomie thinks City kicked Dortmund now, but Dortmund will give City a fight. Yeah, no, if they're like front three or front four, depending on what formation Dortmund likes to go with, I think that's going to be if they can get a couple of goals, put some pressure on City, maybe it's going to be tough. Sophie thinks that they can't finish a Champions League run. Very well said. Near post, I'm not sure who you mean. Who's your faves, lad? I'm not sure who you're referencing on that. Feel free to let us know. I'll definitely answer it. But the one thing I thought was when I look at when you actually look at Dortmund, for the most part, they play 4-2-3-1. But then when you actually look at the Champions League, they've actually played a 3-4-2-1, almost just as much. Do you think going more towards like a 3-4-2-1 might help them defensively at all? Or is it just kind of like they're kind of stuck with what they got, their shit in the back? Because if they play a 3-4-2-1, Meunier may not have to play. And they may be able to put him on the bench.
Yeah, but then you're putting a center back against Raheem Sterling or Riyad Mahrez. And, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. I mean, if this were a team who had a full-time manager right now and was looking at, building something long-term, maybe I could see it. But they're just kind of idling until Marco Rose comes in next season. I don't think they're going to do any significant tinkering. And yeah, I'm not terribly optimistic if you couldn't tell.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think Peter's hopping off. Peter, thanks, man. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate you. Up the Reds.
Cheers, lads.
Peter.
Yeah, good to see you, Peter.
See you soon.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Awesome. So Peter's gonna hop off. We'll be getting Wahomie back in here momentarily. So near post, he's wondering who our favorites are for the Champions League. I think kind of has to be City, right? I mean, I think City's probably number one. I would say. I mean, I think it's probably them, and then whoever comes out of. It's weird. I think the three best teams are on that side of the bracket. I think PSG, Bayern, and Man City are probably the three favorites in my opinion. Obviously, one of those three teams is going to be out between Bayern and PSG. That's going to be. I can't wait to dive into that matchup in a second here. But what do you guys think on who are your top three?
Yeah, I think for me, it's what's up, Wahomie?
Wahomie.
That's going to be. I can't wait to dive into that matchup in a second.
Yeah, for me, I would just say I think it's City. I mean, just judging from what I just said about City against Dortmund, I think City are pretty much unstoppable at the moment. They've just been absolutely fantastic. Gundogan has been unbelievable. You know, I really wish he was a Liverpool player. He's obviously perfect for Klopp's system. But the big thing for me this season for them has been their press. I think their press has been absolutely phenomenal. When we played them and they beat us 4-0, that was one thing that really impressed me about them was their press. We just didn't have time to breathe, and that's something that we usually do to teams. And now City are starting to do that to teams. So that's what's scary for me about them. Obviously, I think Bayern's a close second. They're absolutely phenomenal. I think they'll beat PSG. And, you know, I think we're the dark horse. I would give us third because people are sleeping. Teams are sleeping on us, and I think that we can punish them because of it. But
well, now that we're home in here, what are your thoughts, bud?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, I can see what everyone's saying. I just wonder, like, is there a way that Dortmund might try and change this lineup in terms of formation, so they're not as, you know, obviously because, as you said, I think they're defensively really. I think they've only conceded like they're 6 goals less than us. And obviously, we've had like God knows how many centre-back partnerships. So I wonder if they might try a different tactical, because I think if they go to the Etihad in the first leg and try and take the game to City, I think you might see what happened against Bayern, where they were 2-0 up against Bayern, they end up losing 4-2. So no, I get attack's your best defense, but I think they might need to change it. So I wonder if, you know, I don't know how good the manager is, if they can do it. I think without Sancho, that's going to be a big loss, because I think he's coming to a really good form. So if he's 50-50, that's a blow for them. I think overall, you know, I think City should win this, because I think Dortmund's defense is Achilles' heels. But you never say never. You know, no one expected Lyon to win last year, even though I think Lyon are much better defensively than Dortmund. It just depends. If Dortmund can come away from that first tie still in it, they got a chance. You know, because, you know, they are good. Their stadium, even without fans, is like a very good stadium. And we have seen Pep overthink Champions Leagues. Sometimes City players lack that mentality when they go and gets tough in the Champions League. But I'd still expect City to come through this. So, you know, unless Haaland has a magical night, I expect City to go through.
Well,
again, I can argue.
Oscar's got a nice little question here. And do any of us play football? You can imagine Mahomey playing the Hendo Conte Makalele role with his superior football brain.
I love that. Yeah, Steve and I did. We played at university here in the States. Alex, did you play?
I played for a while. I just play recreationally now. I gave it up, and I teach tennis for a living. So that was my big calling growing up. But still play indoor every now and then. And I'm the no one. I'm the Adam Lallana. Just run around a lot and hope something good happens.
Are you the guy who complains to the referees in indoor? There's always that one guy.
I'm not going to comment on. No, I actually. So I work with our local pro team, and I'm actually the liaison with the officiating crew. So I get to hear on a game-to-game basis all the shit that they get. I'm literally sat right next to the fourth official, so that's given me a great deal more empathy than I used to have for officials. That being said, if one of those guys refs my indoor games, I never let him hear the end of it. So little column A, a little column B.
Yeah, I was a centre back. I was like a character as a moaner. I'd always been moaning the pitch.
Were you really?
Yeah.
Stevie was a centre back as well. I played right back.
I played right centre back.
Yeah, I was very no nonsense. I was a no nonsense centre back. You know, I very similar to like
say Nat Phillips.
I guess I was gonna say like Matt Phillips. Yeah, he was really Matt Phillips. Like I would win every header, but then with my feet, I was just like superiorly average. I was so average with my feet, but positionally, winning headers, being loud, being an asshole, that was my role.
I was more of a Sissoko. There are times I can play great, but there's times I can have a brain fart.
Yeah. France 1 week, Tottenham the next.
Yeah. So yeah, that's me.
All right, getting back on track here, reeling this in. I think so. What are you guys' official predictions for this matchup, Man City versus Dortmund? I got Man City going through 4-1.
I was gonna say like 6-2 City. I think they're gonna steamroll them.
I'm going 7-3 to City.
Yeah,
I'm only going American football scores for this one.
right.
Yeah, I'm going. Yeah, 5-1 overall.
Yeah.
All right. So get to the last matchup, probably the best matchup of the quarterfinal. We got PSG, Bayern Munich. Home, since you just joined, start us off, man. Initial thoughts on this matchup.
So I'm going to be a bit different in terms of like maybe shocking the carte blanche. See, you know, of watching both teams, you know, I think PSG look much more better than they were in the Champions League wise. Maybe not the Liga in their own league. I know they're top, but I mean they haven't been as good as they could have been in terms of games. But I think the Champions League they've been quite good, you know. And I think Neymar just came back against Lyon. He came on in that game, so you know he can get a little bit of match practice, match fitness the next, or you know, as much sharpness as they can. Then I think he's going to be a massive threat. I think Bayern actually weaker without Thiago, personally to me, because I was looking at them. You know, Bayern conceded 6 less goals than us, and we've had because they conceded like 31 goals in their league, and that's only 6. I think 6 off us. You know, they conceded the same amount of goals as Dortmund have. So the same thing we're saying, like, you know, obviously Dortmund, great attack, poor defense. I think Bayern's defense can be got out because they concede a lot of goals. You know, as much they look good because obviously Lewandowski's a goal scoring machine. He can't stop scoring. You know, and obviously they've got, you know, Müller and other good players. But I think against Bayern you're going to get chances, a lot of chances. You know, if you can defend, if you've got a strong defense, you're going to get chances against them. And plus, I think in that final, when you look at it last year, I think PSG missed a lot of gilt edge charges in that game. You know, Neymar and Mbappe missed at least two good chances each in that game. City's ones where they should have scored. So yeah, Bayern won that game, but overall PSG should have come away from that game feeling like we should have won this game because, you know, they had enough chances. They created better chances. So I don't think it's a dry cut and saying like, you know, I think Bayern obviously an amazing team, but I think that they are defensively weaker this year. You know, I don't think they're as solid defensively. And I think like with Mbappe and Neymar, especially Mbappe, the form he's in, you've got a chance. You know, especially also with Icardi, Di Maria, you've got a chance to catch them. You know, because I think Alba, Boateng, they're getting old now, and they're not as stable, you know, as they were before. You know, and plus I think, like I said, I think they're missing. You know, the one thing I would say, stats-wise, with Bayern and Thiago, they were much more. The stats were showing they were much more solid defensively with Thiago than when he wasn't there. So I think they missed someone like that who controls the game for them in the middle of the park. That held them allow them to keep possession more. So I'm actually thinking that this game is going to be. I'm going to go for. I'm backing a PSG to surprise Bayern because I don't think they're going to be. I think PSG are going to be up for revenge as well after losing that Champions League final. So I think Mbappe is going to cause them problems. If they can be clinical this time and take their chances, they will get a lot of chances. And I think, like I said, plus as well, I think Bayern's defense is much more worse than it was than last year. You know, last year they were stronger. This time they're not. The amount of goals they're conceding.
Yeah, you said a lot there, and it's definitely a good point. Before I let you guys follow up, I just gotta get this out. This was awesome. Imagine a final between Man City and PSG at Clasico. I love that. Luckily for us, that is impossible to happen this year, which is good. And he also, LFC Game here also thinks that Neymar is the most overrated player of all time. I mean, I will say he is I think he's wildly inconsistent. He's had moments of being a world-class player that I also think there's been times where he's done absolutely nothing. So I kind of agree with you on that. But Mansfield, let's go over to you. I mean, what do you think about the Munich PSG matchup?
I mean, I think it's I don't really side with Grant Wall. I'm sure you guys all saw him getting hammered over the past week for his comments about needing to seed the tournament. But there is part of the definitely feels that it's kind of criminal to have this as a quarterfinal. Then again, it was us versus City in 17-18. So it's that's going to happen. It's part and parcel of this. I think what Wahomie said is valid. Bayern, I think for me, from what I've watched, Bayern's defensive weaknesses don't stem from the defense itself, but from just their lack of ability to get an established midfield pairing going. They're still playing that same 4-2-3-1 that dominated the competition, dominated domestic, it dominated everything last year. But it was more often than not that pairing of Thiago and Goretzka. And they haven't yet found that same balance yet. And, what's been interesting in watching PSG under Pochettino is in the league, it looks like they're trying to play 4-2-3-1 as much as possible. But every big game that's come along, they did it against Barca, they did it against some of their stronger Ligue 1 competition, they've gone 4-3-3. And it's been a midfield of Verratti, Idrissa Gueye, and Paredes. And obviously you said, I think you said Paredes is going to be suspended for this first leg, which could make things interesting. But if he does go with that midfield three, I think the potential for them to dictate a little bit more with that numerical advantage there, their three against Bayern's two, could get them more chances than we'd otherwise expect. And, you never want to bet against Mbappe right now. Neymar, overrated or not, is a bona fide game changer. There's just no way to dispute it. If he wants to show up, he could single-handedly run the show. But on the flip side, defensively, for the amount of money PSG has, aggressively mediocre back fours. And there probably are few more dangerous wide men in the game and more informed wide men than the guys Bayern have. You want to look at Kingsley Coman, you want to look at Serge Gnabry, you want to look at Leroy Sané. I mean, knowing that you're likely going to be facing at least two of those three with another one that come off the bench they have to be razor sharp at the back if they want any chance of not getting torn to shreds. I think the balance of the sides is going to be really interesting. I think the personnel selections from Bayern will be very telling, and I think the systematic setup from Pochettino will be very telling as well. I think, like I said, I think he wants to go 4-2-3-1 long term, but that might all change if he sticks to what he's done in the Champions League so far.
Yeah, you made a really good point on that, because I actually think that both teams could be susceptible to the wingers from the opposing team, because whether it's, for PSG, it could be, Neymar, Mbappe, even Di Maria, he can still be a threat. And, Munich, again, another team, like you said, like not a lot of consistency in the midfield. I've seen them make a few mistakes. Alphonso Davies has made quite a few mistakes this year at left back. Both teams are susceptible to good play out in the wing. So, again, I think the ball could live out and these flanks. A lot of opportunities could be created. And like you said, PSG's defense, another defense, not as bad as Dortmund's, but just another team that just allows a ton of chances every single game. And a quality team like Bayern Munich is going to make the most out of those, you have to think. So I'm almost anticipating another one. I'm anticipating another high-scoring two legs here. I think, Andrew, I cut you off there. What were you about to say?
I mean, no, you guys all hit it on the head. I mean, the only thing I would add is I think that this game's going to be – it's all going to depend on PSG's back four. I think that Marquinhos is a good defender. I don't think he's a great defender, and I think that trying to who's the other center midfield or center back? I think it's
Kimpembe. Yeah, Kimpembe typically.
Yeah, so I think that they're going to really struggle to contain Lewandowski. I think that Leroy Sané's back. I think so. The fact that he's going to be up there, the fact that Gnabry's up there, they just have so many options. Kingsley Coman, they just have so many options up front. I think it's going to be really tough for PSG to contain that Bayern attack, and without Thiago Silva as kind of like the commander back there, I think that they're really going to struggle against the top front line like Bayern can offer. So I think it's going to be a close affair. I don't think Bayern's going to blow them off the park or anything, but I think that Bayern squeaks through.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just going to be it's interesting for me just because I think a lot of goals are going to be scored because I don't like both defenses don't have a ton of pace. Both offenses have a ton of pace. So it's just going to be an interesting match. It's almost going to be almost like who wants it more, in my opinion. Like, who's going to be the hungrier team? Because there's going to be chances on both sides. Who can be efficient? Who can who can be what's the word I'm looking for? Who can be clinical? That's really going to be the deciding factor in the game. And also, like, two great keepers, Keylor Navas, Neuer. That's going to be fun to watch to see who can stand on their head. But yeah, overall, I could honestly see this going either way. I do tend to lean more the Bayern Munich direction, especially because I think that they're going to have the advantage in the midfield, in my opinion. But it's going to be a close one.
I mean, I agree with what Alex said too. Is if Neymar does show up in this game or in this tie, he's a game changer. He can be easily the best player on the pitch, and that's why I guess Paris paid so much money for him, even though he probably wasn't worth it. But I mean, if he shows up, he can rip through that midfield. He can rip through that defense, and put Mbappe in or even score himself. So if he shows up, he could easily put PSG through this match and into the semifinal.
Good point. Yeah, that's a good point. So official predictions. I think, Andrew, I think you said that you think Bayern's going to squeeze it out.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like 3-1 Bayern Munich.
3-1. Okay. Homie?
I'm going. Game last was going to check who plays first. I'll base my prediction. Go Alex first.
All right, I'm going to go 4-2 to Bayern, and my side bet here is that Jamal Musiala is going to be the one to come out of this tie with the most raise in his stock.
Okay, I'm gonna go 2-2 at home in the first leg, and then PSG to sneak through 2-1 the second leg.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's going to be 6-5 total. Bayern Munich gets 6-5 total, 2 legs. Bayern Munich gets through. I think all of these matchups, there's potential for a lot of goals to be scored. I might even, dare I say, like, City may have the best defense out of any team in the tournament right now. Like, it's kind of crazy. Like, there's not it's a lot of offensive power in the last 8 here. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. Oscar Marcus, we appreciate you, man. Once this lockdown's over, Andrew and I are definitely getting out there, catching some Liverpool games. So we'll keep you in the loop. Definitely have to grab a beer sometime. That'd be awesome. But fellas, that's
throw Alex in a duffel bag and bring him with us.
Yeah. No, much appreciated, man. I gotta get my passport in order. I've been wanting to do that for ages, but might be a little bit harder with a new kid.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
So you got that dad strength now? What's the deal with that?
No. It's the polar opposite, man. It's the polar opposite. I've gotten markedly less efficient at everything I do in life. No.
Well, we appreciate you joining today, man. I know you're probably a busy guy, so thanks for jumping on and talking the Reds with us.
No, of course, guys. It's an absolute pleasure. And like I said, I mean, especially with the international break on tap now, like, you guys know what it's like on Twitter. There's so much shit flying around right now. It's nice to have just a good, earnest discussion. And yeah, if you guys need to do any more of these to keep yourself sane, please keep me in mind.
Oh, we definitely will. No, and I love the Twitter back and forth you have with your homies sometimes.
It's all well intentioned, I promise. If anybody can't read between the lines, I adore the guy. I'm just
sometimes I think I'm like, here we go.
I think it's a lot of that pent up lack of sleep. So I apologize. I promise I don't just go after you. But man. No, we're all square, man. We're all square, and yeah. Well, one of these days we'll take it on here. And like I said, as soon as we actually go to spoken word, you are going to put me 6 feet under, because everything sounds so much better coming with that voice. No.
Love that. Damn right. Well, everyone in the chat as well, we appreciate you all. You guys were on fire as always. We love you. We'll be back later this week. We got some pretty cool guests lined up. I think you'll enjoy them. But as always, up the Reds, and we'll see you guys next time.
Up the Reds.
Yep. Peace out.